morning is going to be Val Desjarlais. Val is the health director of the Touchwood Agency Tribal Council, and she's going to be speaking to us today about women's traditional role in water keeping.
How are you this morning?
Good to see you.
If I sit here, I'm not on there, right? If I sit here, I'm not on there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goody. I want to sit here when our chief speaks.
I'd like to say good morning to each and every one of you this morning. I'd like to thank our Creator for a beautiful day and thank our elders for the beautiful ceremony. Thank you for allowing us to drink the morning water this morning and to hear the beautiful songs and to hear the beautiful words of expression, of life-giving through the prayers of our elders. I'd also like to thank the Chief and Council and the community of Whitecap First Nation for allowing us to come into the community to bring such an important connection, a part of our life, a part of who we are, a part of what we need to preserve, what we need to respect, what we need to take care of. Our water is our life. It is our life force. It is what brings us into the world. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Valerie Desjarlais. I work with Touchwood Agency Tribal Council as health director. I was raised solo from a Muscogee First Nation, but I spent the past 35 years in Quactus and Creek country, so I'm mixed. Schools Apitow, schools Ninahewa, Amina, Muscogee, Witsihik, Anishinaabe, Harry. Come to learn a lot of things through my journey, and I had to reflect on the right. I didn't know what my topic was. I knew I was going to do a presentation here. And Mark Desjarlais asked and indicated if I'd come and speak and share some of my knowledge and what I've learned and what I'm still learning. I really want to express gratitude to Bob Pratt. Bob, could you stand up? To Rick Aiken, stand up. These are water monitors and our operators from TATC. Could you please give them a hand, because what I want to share. Oh, and let's not forget Dr. Hans there. Stand up, Dr. Hans. We also have a thorn in our rose, but a very good thorn, very powerful. And I want to ask Tim Bonish to stand up from Finib. And most important, I want to ask the grandmothers who represent our great-grandmother, Tipskaupi Simisquil. I'm going to ask Elder Rose and the other elder this morning that was in the water ceremony to stand up and acknowledge and all the mothers, females, to stand up. And let's acknowledge them, for we are the life carriers, the life givers. Thank you. I work for Touchwood Agency Tribal Council as health director since 2010-11, and it was only to be an interim position. It was to help them as they were transitioning and they were going to go into the hiring. And somehow, some way, I end up taking on that full responsibility because of the health issues, concerns that I come to encounter. And one of them, and why I acknowledge these individuals, is because it's through Rick and Bob and Dr. Hans and Tim that I come to learn about environmental health programming. And there's lots of environmental health programming that we have to be concerned of. However, it was the water, the treatment of water. I really had to look at understanding, because I come to see a lot of skin abrasions, I come to see a lot of issues with skin, the dermatology. You know, we had a lot of children with rashes, with eczema, and there are so many. And so I'm always a curious person. So I contacted Townsend Drugs in Wynyard and asked, are you guys giving a lot of skin cream and medication for children, for youth, for elders, for the adults? And they said they have quite a bit every year. And the only connection we have within our tribal council, as is pretty much all over, is our water, and also the chemicals that are being put in the water and treating it. And there was a lot of concerns that I had. And when I started reflecting back about what a woman's traditional role was with water, and I'm not going to go into detail because I like to talk, and Delbert was doing this to me, so I'm kind of standing where I can't see him. And one of the, I really encourage you, first of all, get to know your creation story of who you are. And it don't matter if you're Anishinaabe, Nanaewe, Monial. We all have a creation story of where we came from. Every one of us. And within that creation story, you know, that's the spiritual aspect. We become so disconnected, not only the males, but many of us females have become so disconnected from the creation and the spiritualness of who we are as human beings. The creation story teaches us. It teaches us about life, teaches us about roles, teaches us about responsibilities. And the creation story talks about 4 elements. You see, and I'm going to share what my kukum used to talk about. When I was a little girl, we used to live in a mud shack. And we lived in that mud shack, and at night, say, Kukum, tell us a story. Kukum talked about how the Creator, she say, Samanto, you know, Creator made everything here. She'd say, she'd pray and tell us that too, about how Creator made everything for us to use, and we are part of creation, and we come from creation. And when we die, we're going to go back to where we're created in that spiritual world. And one of the elements with the disconnection we have with spiritual, and that's what's lacking. Talk about having, and we need more women, elders, to be more involved in this water management as part of the governance process. Because, see, the first thing Creator made was the grandfather's son. And we see the grandfather's son during the day. We also experience the light, the heat, that energy, life force that we need in the daytime. We need the grandmother moon at night. The role responsibility of the grandmother moon was to control the water, the ebbs and the tides. And at the same time, we are also given the planets. And those planets revolved in the circular within the universe. And then we have the stars, Akchak. Mostly in Sodo and in Cree, Akchak is so familiar to when we talk about the spirit, when our spirit leaves our body. And that disconnection of who we are, we've really become disconnected, and we really need to get reconnected. Because when we came into this world, our role as women, it's more than just being barefoot and pregnant and to be wait on men hand and foot. It's more than that. How many of you men think you want to keep us barefoot and pregnant? That's an attitude, right? Some men still believe that, and they want women to wait on them hand and foot. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. We have a shared responsibility. Just like the grandfather sun and the grandmother moon had that shared responsibility. One takes care of the day and one takes care of the night. And in the nighttime it's dark, right? Darkness. When we're in our mother's womb, it's darkness. When the water, we're circular, the embryo as we're forming with that life force inside our mother's womb, whether we're male or female, we're covered. We have our air. We're covered with water on the outside, protecting us and shielding. Everything our mothers take, our intake, is in there. We have a connectedness to the water. Take a look at the veins in your arms right now. You see the color blue on the inside. And when you get cut, when we get cut, the color comes out red. Same colors are oceans. So when the water breaks and it's time for birthing, the water is clearing and cleaning the passage for the baby to come out in a good way. We need to connect with Mother Earth in that same manner. Today, because of industrialization and because of the mining and all the potash and all of that, our mother and our rivers, the rivers are the blood force and they're also the veins of Mother Earth. And we have traumatized our water over and over. That traumatization is the same thing with what we do to our own bodies. Back in the day, I heard a young man sing such a beautiful Native American ceremony song this morning, and I just loved those songs. It brought tears to my eyes as we're drinking morning water. I too participate in those ceremonies because I was always taught wherever there's prayer and song, it has to be something good. And because of attitudes, the way we look at things through a linear way, we think that's wrong. Some of us. That's our belief. And one of the teachings we have within the Native American ceremony, as well within any of the ceremonies that we utilize water, is that gift of life. And we have a lot of reverence for that life force. No different than when we start taking care of the rivers and the lakes. And we need to start, we're contaminating it. We have the oil spill here. Think about the trappers up north and the people up north when they had the big fires, rather than acknowledge the First Nation people, Indigenous people up north, and to get inclusive involved. Who best knows that land? Who best knows how the water flows? Who best knows how to take care? And helping and they recognize that connection from the sun to the land, and how to influence, to work the land with the water. Instead, they bring in the army, they brought in Red Cross, people that had no knowledge of that land. And it got worse and worse and worse. And we've excluded in a lot of ways when we think and we're looking at changing our world view, our own paradigm shift, we call it in the Western world. Scientists and people don't understand. They look at it in terms of material and physical. First Nation people, is whether we're male, female, acknowledge it from a spiritual perspective. And that spiritual perspective is what is missing in our life, personally, professionally. We're disconnected from the land base. We're disconnected from everything Creator gave us for us to use. Going back to our ceremonies, some of our people choose not to follow our ceremony. They say it's wrong, especially in, say, the Native American church. They practice that ceremony Sometimes they start at 10 o'clock at night, all night long, and go for 12 hours. It's not prayer, song, healing. They pass medicine around 4 times, and you're right within it. When we come, my auntie, I was 13 years old, by the way. I've been looking after myself ever since I was 13. I raised myself. That's why I like to talk a lot, I guess. Seen lots, experienced lots, been there, done that, still have some more places to go. But one of the things my aunt told me one day, for example, our sweatlot ceremony, because I was raised as Sudo, my aunt told me I should not go into the sweatlot ceremony because females don't go into the sweatlot ceremony. And I asked her, and I said, I can't make that promise to you, Auntie, right now. Let me think about it, I told her. A few weeks went by, and she told me, I thought I told you not to go to that ceremony. I heard you're in that ceremony again. And I could feel my guard going up, and I was looking at the salt and pepper shaker on her table, and I took it. I said, okay, Auntie. I said, after Kokum died and left me when I was 13, there was nobody around me, nobody come and say, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to take over Kokum's role for you, I'm going to make sure you eat, you go to school, you have a place to sleep, I'm going to take care of it. I was just left to wonder. Now, and at that time I was in my 40s when my auntie was telling me this. I said, so, and I grabbed the salt and I grabbed the pepper. After Kokum died, I said, I turned to alcohol. I did a lot of wrongdoings because of that alcoholism. It changed my behavior, changed my attitude. I pretend I didn't care. That's fire water, right? In our history, they call that fire water is what really impacted a lot of things of where we are today. And I said, do you want me to go this road? Which one is best for me? Me going to where there's prayer? Me going into a lodge? Sweat lodge where there's fire, there's water, there's air, there's connectedness? Or do I go back to this path, the same path after the fire water? So which is the best one for me? And it's the same thing with some of our ceremonies. We like to judge each other, criticize, condemn. But which one is better? Do we continue the road of fire water? Or do we continue to respect and to acknowledge each and every ceremony? Because fire water is not a ceremony in itself, is it? We need to look and express our worldview. And as females, and even males today, our parents, they're the caregivers to the children. The transference of knowledge should be passed on in that way, in a respectful way. There's a lot of, with the ceremonies, that respect for life, we need to share and acknowledge. We spent many times, as a female, with our hands, we cooked, we touched the water, we cooked with water, we cleaned with water, we washed with water. But it goes even more than that physical. We need, all of us, we all need to get reconnected to the part of creation that made us spiritual. What concerns many of us today, and this is why these water conferences are here, and the individuals I acknowledge have really taught me a lot about the trends of where we're going in terms of water treatment. Is there a place left on earth that provides the nutrients, the minerals, the essentials that we were given at that time of creation? Is there one place left? Does anybody know? Or are we treating our water the same way we treat with medications today? Our people are living in communities. We have epidemics of diabetes. We have epidemics of communicable diseases. We have epidemics of heart disease. We're all within our systems. We have 12 systems within our human body. We need to start taking care. Majority, 75% of our body is water. 70 to 75% of the whole world, Earth, is water. So where do we find the purification and cleansing that we need? You know, when we speak about water management in a governance setting, we need to get more of our Indigenous people, our knowledge keepers, involved in that. And at that time of creation, the first thing in that order of how we come to be, we have our air, we have our water, we have our fire, and we have our rock, the ground on which we stand on, Mother Earth's home in which we live. Right after that, we have the vegetation, the plants. The first offering I see in every ceremony, and the offering I choose to live by in my life has taught to me. And the first offering I do when I do in prayer, and I'm a smoker, I like to smoke cigarettes, is give an offering of that tobacco. First and foremost came the tobacco, the plants. Then came the trees. We see the pipes made of the trees. And right after that, we have our winged ones. We have our water species. We have the four-legged, and then we have the human beings. So guess what? When we've traumatized 70 to 75% of our life force to water, we are going to be the first ones to go as human beings. The generations will have come to cease for human beings. What type of legacy? We're totally aware right now of where we are. We need to start taking seriously, because I'm scared of what our children and their children and their children and their chapanak, are they going to have a future in what we know as Mother Earth? And it's a scary thought. We need to get more aggressive. I'm really glad Chief Bobby Cannon walked in. We do need to start taking this seriously. We cannot no longer continue to traumatize Mother Earth. The veins are through the river, and they're running through, and they're getting contaminated. The same way our own flesh and blood physically have become contaminated with addictions, with sickness, with illnesses, with diseases. And it is up to us to continue to become more aggressive in implementing and including our Indigenous knowledge keepers, including when I love the value systems. I went to do a master's up in Las Vegas. I spent a whole month there, and I didn't even get to gamble once, you know, because it was like 10-hour days. And I went to do this on a neurological linguistic program, because I'm to specialize in the behavior of people, because I'm a counselor by trade. And one of the things was the desert. And we were there for a month, and it actually rained, and it was the first time I ever seen that. The rain was way up there. It never even came down to hit the ground. They're telling us, you have to come back over here more often and bring all that rain with you. And it was quite an experience to see their land base, the desert, because I could see that where we're going in this direction. And it's really difficult, you know, as we continue to move forward, to get our voices heard, to get Dr. Hans's voice heard, and to get his technicians and the researchers that are right involved, like we need to get serious and really start implementing what they're talking about, and to put people who know what they're doing in terms of the design and everything, and to be inclusive of the feminine groups and our women, and to share that knowledge and exchange it, and to present that spiritual aspect, and to present those beliefs as we know of it, and to present the only time, even in the white world, like I go to church, I open to all kind of things, I expand myself because I'm involved with so many different people. And I think of, I used to go to church, they have baptism. And that's the only time people respect their water is in baptism. Or if you're getting haunted and traumatized by, they have all kind of shows on TV now, Ghostbusters and all these things. Then they think of the water has become so holy, that's the only thing that's going to get rid of these spirits, but yet sometimes it's our own action and our own. And so we need to look at it more in terms as a part of, and not to be so disconnected. And we really need to reconnect, even the men. The men sometimes, we have many men that are very respectful and try to do their best. But to really connect at how you're connected to the mother and to the feminine and to Mother Earth, the role responsibility we have to ensure the next generation has that same kind of experience we've had when we were children. You know, wonderful to connect with the green grass and seeing the rivers flow. We hear that in our treaties. For as long as the sun shines, the grass grows and the rivers flow. But what happens when the rivers dry up? What happens when the sun turns against us and we start burning up and we become where everything is dry? I heard someone talking yesterday from Southeast Tribal Council about the sand and how all of that, what is happening underground, under the depth of a plow. What good would be a depth of a plow if it's all contaminated? So each and every one of us, and I'm only going to say this to you as a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother, we, each and every one of us, have a responsibility to do something. It's just not talk, it's taking action. It's being productive for the next generations to come. It's being productive to ensure life continues for the next generations. It's being productive, and more than just having something to drink, it's carrying on life. I heard someone talk here yesterday too about what's happening on the other side of the world. There may be shift change. So we have so much things to be added onto the agendas, and how we become taking care of our role and responsibility. We have many women across Canada and the United States, they have the walk for water. There are things that are happening in Ontario and in Minnesota. The women, the grandmothers, are working at trying to preserve, to get an advocacy role for the preservation of that water. And so, there's so much in terms of our role and responsibility. And they keep a lot of this as keepers. It's not just the women that are keepers of the water. We're at a point where there's that balance now. We've always had that balance. That's what we need to reconnect to. You know, are we going to continue to keep treating water for generations to come? Or are we going to strive to look at ensuring we have our natural waters that are coming in from the mountains? Even our rain, they say, is getting contaminated. We have acid rain. You know, when a person has a valve operation, I had a valve operation many years ago, and I've seen so many have that valve operation, and sometimes they have more intense heart operation. And sometimes, if that valve, our body rejects that valve or pacemaker, do you know our blood turns to acid? You know, so there's so much teaching, the same thing with our rain, which is something natural. We end up with acid rain. And I'm not sure, I don't have a timekeeper. I don't want to exclude and overtake my time here. I acknowledge and I thank each and every one of you for allowing me to come and share what I've learned, and I have so much to learn. We need to listen to what our Creator is telling us in here. We need to really emphasize that spiritual and to include it, to be part of the physical and the material. And it's having these ceremonies and not to be so judgmental to other ceremonies that are taking place. We need to ask ourselves if the minute it comes to a thought, is fire water better for us than these ceremonies? Maybe that's not the reason why we say sometimes we didn't do things that way in our days, because we weren't exposed to it, because I wasn't exposed to a lot of things until I moved to Quactus. And it's true there that helped me appreciate and have that reverence for life. Each and every one of us want to live life. So do our next generations to come. So with that, I really want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to share what little that I do know. And take it all to heart. Really have the respect and ask them to for listening to me this morning. Hi.